Very, very bad news for Donald Trump. Donald Trump has been caught funneling donations supposedly for veterans to his own foundation. Trump portrays himself as the strong pro-military guy. He's all about the veterans, but veterans groups are not unanimously taken with Donald Trump. For example, the Iraq and Afghanistan Veterans of America publicly rejected donations from Donald Trump, saying, quote, "We need strong policies from candidates, not to be used for political stunts." Trump didn't care, though. He went and he set up this donation website that specifically promises, quote, 100% of your donations will go directly to veterans' needs. And he actually used a decision he made to skip last week's debate on Fox News. You'll remember, Lewis, he said, I'm holding a rally at the same time as that debate, which I'm skipping, and we're going to raise money for veterans. The website, when you go to it, where he's raising money for veterans, is a single page with stock photos and a credit card donation form. And it says 100% of your donations will go directly to veterans' needs. The problem is that that is a lie. The Weekly Standard got involved, did some math, and they realized that back in 2014, the Trump Foundation donated more money to the almost universally hated Citizens United Foundation than to veterans groups. So they said, wait a second, that's kind of weird. He says he's all about donating to veterans. Didn't really donate very much to veterans in the past. So then they looked more into last week's campaign. And indeed, if you look at the bottom of that campaign donation website for the veterans, it says, the Donald J. Trump Foundation is a 501c3 nonprofit organization. An email confirmation of your donation will be sent to the email address you provide. Okay, fine. So the money is going first to Trump's foundation, but then he could be donating it to veterans groups, right? I mean, he's probably able to do that. Well, then it's already a lie, because the donations are not going directly to veterans. They're going to Trump's foundation. And then after expenses, after salaries, after whatever, maybe some of it is going to vets.
Well, yes, but is that still better than what? Maybe that's the way it has to be done. I don't know. Do we know that the exact details of that? Perhaps because of some weird regulation or law, maybe this is the way it has to be done if he's running a campaign. If
Absolutely fair question, Lewis, and I'm glad you brought it up. So let's look at what he has done in the past, claiming that he is a big supporter of veterans. A 2015 analysis by Forbes figured out that barely 1% of Donald J. Trump Foundation's $5.5 million of donations went to organizations that support military veterans. So yes, Lewis looking for the silver lining. It is remotely possible that monies donated under the guise of these support the vets things are getting to veterans, minus operating fees and all that stuff. But the money is going to Donald Trump's personal foundation, which has no history of significant support of veterans. And then conceivably, we are to believe it is all going to veterans. But the idea that it is going directly to veterans is absolutely bogus. But the reality is that there's a more important thing than this. The reality is that Trump is using the veterans thing to pander to potential voters. The legality of it, whether it's going directly or indirectly to veterans or whatever, there's every indication from Trump's past donation activity that this is not really that important to him. And he's using it to pander to voters. And that's really the despicable part of it.
Well, when you're running in as a Republican, Dave, you have to kiss the ass of veterans.
Pandering is almost
it's a requisite.
Yes.
Yeah, that's true. And the funny thing is that I would say, if you look at voting records anyway, most Republicans in Congress don't really seem to support veteran benefits or veteran care.
They support the troops by giving them wars to fight.
They just say, I support the troops. I guess that's just support of the troops, right? Self-professed, I support the troops.
Well,
so
you can also put
a,
you can put a ribbon magnet on your car. That's one thing you can do.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can
that was
wear,
probably made in China.
Right. Yeah. And an American flag pin on your suit, I guess, which now everybody does. The Democrats now, everybody has to do it now, because now if you don't have it, it's somehow seen as like a demerit in some way. It's crazy what's going on. The pandering is crazy. Talk to me about this on our Facebook page, facebook.com/David Pakman Show. After the break, we will talk about this new trend of the religious right using exemptions and exceptions and opt-outs to circumvent the law. We've been talking about the water crisis in Flint, Michigan, and it was revealed over the weekend, based on some newly released emails, that Michigan officials were trucking in clean water to a state building in Flint in January of 2015. So why is this a big deal? We will talk about that. Check out this email that was obtained by Progress Michigan, sent by the Michigan Department of Technology Management and Budget. Technology Management and Budget. While the city of Flint states that corrective actions are not necessary, DTMB is in the process of providing a water cooler on each occupied floor positioned near the water fountain so you can choose which water to drink. The coolers will arrive today and will be provided as long as the public water does not meet treatment requirements. Now, let me be very clear here, Lewis. This email appears to be unrelated to the lead problem in Flint, Michigan. It's related to the TTHMs for which the city did notify customers. So initially when this email leaked, people said, wow, Flint residents were only officially made aware of the lead in October, November, and they knew about the lead since January, and they were giving their employees bottled water to drink. That does not appear to be true. This email appears to be in relation to the TTHMs. But the broader issue here is they clearly knew way back then that the water shouldn't be water that is that people there are drinking, right? The decision was made in 2014 to switch to the Flint River as the source of water for Flint, Michigan. Fine. The lead issue was later. They knew about the TTHM issue back in January. But again, there was no large-scale corrective action taken. People were notified about it and told, well, the water's probably still fine to drink. But this clearly tells us that there is a broad-reaching, and now we know a year has been going, this has been going on, where Michigan authorities knew that there were problems with the water, and it makes the October, November notification about the lead even more suspect. Because if you're testing the water in January 2015 and you know about the TTHMs, how likely is it that you were completely taken by surprise in October by the lead? It's just very hard to believe. Very, very hard to believe.
Yeah, I'm having trouble understanding the mindset of the governor, the mayor, the politicians, really everyone involved. Why do you say our water is dirty, but we're just not going to do anything about it right now, or we're going to switch to an even more polluted source?
Revenue. They said why. Revenue.
Revenue, right. But ultimately, I mean, look what happened. This is going to end up costing them a lot more, right?
Absolutely. And until October, the administration of Republican Governor Rick Snyder maintained we had no idea about those high levels of lead. But Progress Michigan's Lonnie Scott says that these emails that have been uncovered completely blow a hole in the stated timeline that Rick Snyder has put together about who knew what and when and what he knew. Every single interview I've seen with Rick Snyder about this water debacle makes me feel you cannot trust this guy further than you can throw him. This warrants a criminal investigation. Never mind the fact that Snyder himself seems like an absolute scumbag on this issue.
Well, 10 kids are dead, and so I think there will be an investigation. I think we're going to learn quite a bit about this guy.
Since telling you that Boko Haram, Nigerian-based extremist group Boko Haram, is the deadliest extremist group in the world, we haven't had that much news about Boko Haram, and that changed over the weekend. Members of Boko Haram have reportedly burned children alive. This is part of an attack in Nigeria that killed 86 people Saturday night in the village of Dolori, which is in northeastern Nigeria. Two nearby camps housing 25,000 people who had fled Boko Haram were also attacked, and this is absolutely horrifying. A survivor told the Associated Press that he heard screams of children burning to death and saw huts firebombed, and the attack apparently lasted about 4 hours. A soldier at the scene told the Associated Press that 3 female suicide bombers blew themselves up as part of the assault, and the entire sort of sequence and timeline is unclear here. But Mohammed Kanar, who's the area coordinator for Nigeria's National Emergency Management Agency, said that 86 bodies were found, many of them charred, many of them riddled with bullets. They were collected yesterday afternoon. 62 people survived this catastrophe with burns that are being treated. Boko Haram, as you know, Lewis, has pledged allegiance to the Islamic State known as ISIS or ISIL, but it is not clear whether there is any sort of operational connection there. They've killed about 20,000 people and driven 2.5 million Nigerians from their homes over the last 6 years. We aren't the policemen of the world. That's the absolute reality. But what is the solution here? We've talked about the problem with the Nigerian government, either out of fear or corruption. We don't know exactly which, maybe a combination of both, seemingly unable and or unwilling to really get involved in fighting Boko Haram here. What is anyone to do?
Yeah, but you would think that there would be a larger international response as well, and there doesn't seem to be.
Well, we've seen Chad get involved, right? Chadian troops,
Right.
Chadian forces getting involved in some situations. Yes, there does not seem to be that total will to take out Boko Haram in the same way that there seems to be the will to take out ISIL, although we haven't taken out ISIL either. So just having the will clearly is not all you need.
Maybe it starts with the Nigerian government. Maybe they need to officially call for help. I don't even know if they have done this or not.
Are they afraid to some extent?
I don't know. Why would they be afraid? Why would you be afraid to call for help? I mean, Boko Haram is trying to destroy your country. It seems that calling for help could only help.
Yes,
right?
Except, again, as we mentioned, we don't know what the situation is with those in the Nigerian government,
Right.
either being absolutely terrified that they will be killed if they take any sort of decisive action or make aggressive statements about Boko Haram. And we don't know what sort of corruption there may be there. And this is just an absolute disaster. A lot of focus on ISIL, understandably, but let's not forget about what's going on in Africa. And as a general thing, there's a sort of anti-Africa bias in the West, and we've talked about that before, to not care as much about Africa, to sort of accept some higher level of baseline violence in Africa that would not be acceptable in other parts of the world.
Yeah, perhaps once those diamond and precious mineral mines start getting hit by Boko Haram, then maybe there will be a bit more of a response.
Let's talk now about the Iowa caucus results on the Democratic side. Just a few months ago, Bernie Sanders was down to Hillary Clinton in Iowa polls by nearly 30 percentage points. However, he pulled off effectively a tie in the popular vote, albeit not in delegates, and we will get into this. With 99.9% of precincts reporting, we had Bernie Sanders with 49.5% support in the Iowa Democratic caucus and Hillary Clinton at 49.9% support. Since then, these numbers have tweaked just slightly to 49.8% for Hillary Clinton and 49.6% for Bernie Sanders. How did these numbers compare to the average of polls going into the Iowa caucuses? Hillary Clinton averaging 47.9%, ended up with 49.9%. Hillary Clinton overperformed the polls by 2% within the margin of error. Bernie Sanders going in with a polling average of 43.9%, came out of it with 49.5, now 49.6%. Just under 5 points ahead of where he was polling. And kind of sad, Lewis, I guess, Martin O'Malley polling 4.3% on the way in, came out of it with about half a percentage point support. And he has immediately suspended his campaign, which is kind of sad. I hadn't mentioned this, but we were sort of scheduled to interview him in New Hampshire next Tuesday. I can only assume he is not going to be doing interviews in New Hampshire next Tuesday. Lewis, this is now, in my view, a win for Bernie Sanders. Now, on the delegates, it appears as though Hillary Clinton has come out ahead 24-21. There are some questions about coin flips for some delegates. There are some questions about very strange recount numbers in a couple of precincts. But by and large, it appears as though Hillary Clinton has a few more delegates coming out of this than Bernie Sanders. Doesn't really matter. These first four states in February are very few delegates compared to the delegates that will be awarded or assigned in the first week of March. This is about momentum. This is a win for Bernie. He was 30 points down months ago, and he comes out of it with a tie.
Mm-hmm. The Bernie numbers look good. I guess I'm happy with the result. I would have liked to see Bernie walk away the overall victor here, but still good news.
According to an article on Mike.com, with yesterday's results, Bernie Sanders is the first non-Christian to win primary delegates. Full stop. I mean, he is the first non-Christian candidate who has ever won delegates. Bernie
But
Sanders,
Obama is a Muslim.
Well, I mean, other than that, obviously. I mean, yes,
Yeah.
I forgot about that. No, other than Barack Obama, the Muslim, Bernie Sanders becomes the first non-Christian to ever win delegates. He is, of course, Jewish. We know, Lewis, the longer this thing keeps going for Bernie, the more the anti-Semites will come out of the woodwork. It's somewhat surprising we haven't seen more of it. I mean, it's certainly happening amongst the sort of white supremacist, white separatist groups. It's happening among the Israeli-Palestinian conspiracy theorists, but it is sort of limited. It will blow up. I guarantee it, Lewis, if Bernie Sanders goes the distance here.
You know, what's funny is that the anti-Semites and the conspiracy theorists, they say the Jews run the world and the Jews run everything.
Yeah.
You would have thought
a Jew would have at least have one delegate at some point in the past, right?
Right. That's my thought.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right about that. So this is very, very interesting what's going on in Iowa. Now we are headed to New Hampshire. Remember, New Hampshire shows a heavier lead for Bernie Sanders, although fewer delegates will be awarded in New Hampshire. Martin O'Malley out. That was very, very quick, Lewis, for Martin O'Malley. Send me your thoughts about this. I'm on Twitter at @DPakman. Lewis is on Twitter at @LewisMotamedy. Warby Parker is offering a free 5-day home try-on to give you the opportunity to check out their glasses. I personally wear Warby Parker glasses when I'm not wearing my contact lenses, and I also started with one of these free at-home try-ons of 5 pairs of glasses. You can get your free home try-on and support the David Pakman Show at warbyparkertrial.com/TDPS. I don't really like going into glasses stores and trying on glasses while the salesperson sort of hovers over me, and I like more than 30 seconds to actually figure out whether I like the glasses. So with the Warby Parker home try-on, I was able to pick 5 pairs that I liked, put them on in the comfort of my own home, pick the one I like the most, and then Warby Parker put my prescription lenses in there for me. A lot of people don't know that the eyeglass industry is controlled by just a few big corporations that keep prices very high, like $300 for prescription glasses high, which is just insane. Warby Parker glasses start at $95. That's what mine cost. And for every pair of glasses sold, Warby Parker distributes a pair of glasses to someone in need. You can try 5 pairs and see what you like. Check out the at-home trial and support our show by going to warbyparker.com/TDPS. It costs nothing. Ted Cruz did win the Iowa caucus yesterday on the Republican side. So let's just not forget here that we are dealing with a man in Ted Cruz that is completely unhinged, a total right-wing extremist. I don't even know that we have the ability in an hour, never mind in 5 minutes, to really communicate the lunacy of what a Ted Cruz presidency would mean. But just to touch on a few of the highlights. Ted Cruz, of course, staunchly anti-choice, anti-abortion, as some people call it, wants to make it very much harder for women to access safe abortions. We know that that's a disaster. We know that that's a really bad idea. Ted Cruz wants no path to citizenship for the 11 million undocumented immigrants in this country. Exactly how he would take care of the fact that we have 11 million undocumented immigrants in this country. Not totally clear. A lot of bluster, a lot of talking points from Ted Cruz, but he seems to think that he is going to be able to solve the immigration problem that we have in this country without allowing for a path to citizenship for any of those 11 million undocumented immigrants. He is in favor of, and this is just amazing, Lewis, Ted Cruz wants to carpet bomb ISIS and ISIL in Iraq and Syria without harming civilians or dealing any civilian casualties. Imagine that. How do you the only way that you could say that that's what you want to do is if you have no clue whatsoever what carpet bombing is, or if you're just saying, I'm assuming my supporters have no clue and I'm just going to lie. Because by definition, carpet bombing is a way to increase civilian casualties. There is no way to strategically, surgically carpet bomb ISIS. Doesn't work that way.
I think in this case, I'm sure Ted Cruz tells plenty of lies. In this case, I think he genuinely does not know what he's talking about.
On this particular issue, you think he's not malicious, he's clueless, which is nice. I mean, it's nice to go back to the days of clueless versus completely malicious and a bad person.
And I think his economic policies are, clueless too. I think he's clueless on that. I don't think he's trying to destroy the economy. I just think he's clueless and his policies would.
He also would want to repeal the Affordable Care Act, Obamacare, no real plan to replace it, one of the worst climate deniers. I mean, really one of the worst climate deniers currently running for president on either side. And he has that coveted A+ rating from the NRA on gun safety, which is just completely nuts. And then lastly, and I really thought this was an issue that was done, he has promised to overturn the Supreme Court decision on same-sex marriage, on bans on same-sex marriage. He doesn't want the same rights for transgender people. He doesn't want workplace protections for LGBT individuals. This is a guy who is a real danger. And for now, we have one state down, 49 to go. He is the top choice of Republican voters. Very sad state of affairs.
It is. I think that I'm not really sure how he would perform against Hillary, against Bernie. I'd like to think that he would just get utterly destroyed in debate.
Always risky to count on that.
It is, and he has so much support from the religious right. That's quite a group you have when you have that.
The online news world is getting pretty cluttered with lots of nonsense. There's the so-called news sites that just rewrite news articles, and then there's the websites we all know that we just can't trust. Lately, I've been reading Smashpipe, which is an online magazine that does original alternative news and satirical news with an unapologetic perspective and a roving moral center. Smashpipe is less interested in trending topics than in what's actually going on, and Smashpipe has no ads whatsoever other than reader-generated classified ads, and they never will. Smashpipe is what happens when you, on a bad day, stub your toe on the miseries and mysteries of life. Check it out at smashpipe.com. Okay, I told you last week or the week before about Sarah Palin commenting at a Trump rally about her son's recent arrest for allegedly beating his girlfriend. And she sort of indirectly but very clearly said, you know, part of the problem here is the PTSD that our members of the military are getting as a result of the lack of respect that President Obama is showing our soldiers, blah, 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 blah. It was a futile attempt by Sarah Palin to use language to communicate anything with meaning, but she did speak Lewis nonetheless. She did use words and communicated. So now, this is the best. She goes on NBC. You saw this, Lewis, didn't you?
Yeah, this is, well, there's a lot of word salad and word confetti happening. It's a long interview, but then we have about 2 minutes here, and things get crazy.
Let's play it.
I want to ask you about something you mentioned on the campaign trail, which is the arrest of your son, Track. And you talked about it, and then you mentioned PTSD. And you said that President Obama may be to blame for some of the PTSD that's out there. Well, I wanted to, let's take it piece by piece. What exactly did you mean?
Let's start piece by piece by, you guys brought me here to talk about Iowa politics and the caucus tonight, not to talk about my kids. And that was a promise. But as things go in the world of media, you guys don't always keep your promises, evidently.
Burn.
I never blamed President Obama. What I have blamed President Obama in doing, though, is this level of disrespect for the United States military that is made manifest in gutting budgets, in not trying to beef it up and let our military do the job that they are trained to do. And in specific issues that we're talking about that are so hot today, specifically, let's get in there and let's utterly destroy ISIS, as we know our United States military can do, yet we have a commander-in-chief who seems to kind of want to kowtow and allow the enemy to be poking at us, and that's unacceptable to most Americans, certainly to me.
Do you regret the comment, though, Governor Palin, on that day of the endorsement?
What did I say that is offensive?
That you seem to lay it at the feet of the president.
I don't regret any comment that I made because I didn't lay PTSD at the foot of the president. I did say, though, that there is, and suggested very adamantly, that there is much more that our commander-in-chief can do to prove that he respects our troops and will let them do their job. But no, if you guys have a specific quote, it allows the media to be more credible if you guys will tell me exactly what you're talking about, and then I can address that.
In terms of credibility, I just want to make sure there were no specific promises made about content of the interview, only that this would be your first interview since you endorsed Donald Trump.
Well, I was told that this interview is about the caucus tonight in Iowa, and right on who will it be to put America back on the right track and restore constitutional government that we are lacking today and that we so need. And I said, right on, let me go talk about that. Sure.
It's so, I mean, it's a futile attempt at speaking, right? I mean, what does it mean to make manifest?
I don't know. I guess if you can make the word and use it in a sentence.
Last time I'd made manifest, it was 350 degrees for 45 minutes, Lewis.
I think that's too hot.
Yeah.
You might have dried it out a little bit.
My biggest problem is, why is she on the Today Show? That's the real question, right? Why is she on the Today Show commenting about anything?
I don't know. People like to hear Sarah Palin speak. I like to hear her speak.
Well, yeah, I mean, or attempt to speak anyway. How long will it be before people say, you know what, maybe she doesn't need to weigh in on presidential politics?
Well, when you are a vice presidential candidate,
Right.
I think that you're there for the rest of your life.
Really?
You're there on the national politics scene. And I don't know if people like having Sarah Palin on because she sounds ridiculous,
Right.
or because they think Americans want to see her.
I've never seen anyone appear to take her more seriously than Matt Lauer, including just referring to her every time as Governor Palin. But it's sort of a contrast, right? He refers to her as Governor Palin, but then asks her to address ludicrous things she said, right? Governor Palin, do you regret when you blamed your son's PTSD in spite of the fact that he never saw any combat when he was in the military and is accused of beating his girlfriend? When you blamed that on President Obama, was that a mistake, Governor Palin? With all due respect, it's almost brilliant what he's doing, and I don't even know if he's doing it deliberately, but the contrast is amazing.
Well, I think he knows what to say and what to ask to bump the ratings up a little bit, and his demeanor is great.
Oh yeah, it's absolutely the best. And she also doesn't even really deny having done it, right? She says, I never blamed Obama for my son's PTSD. I blamed Obama for disrespecting the military, which I said is connected to what caused Track's PTSD. Oh, well, excuse me. Yeah, nobody could ever interpret that as having blamed President Obama.
I think, yeah. Well, when it's word confetti, as I like to call it, it's hard. It's easy to say that that's not what you meant and that's not what you were really saying.
Right.
I think we knew what she was suggesting.
Someone should remind Sarah Palin cameras and the internet exist in 2016, so we can check what you said and then compare it to what you later say. That's not something she may be aware of.
Well, if you remember Ted Stevens, he was from Alaska too,
Yep.
and he was the guy who was very confused about the internet.
Yeah.
And so maybe they share that.
I have video of CNN and Jake Tapper visibly perplexed by Sarah Palin's explanation of why she supports Donald Trump in spite of the fact that he was very, very pro-choice at one point and now claims to be pro-life. Trump was against abortion. Now Trump was for abortion. Now he claims to be against it. It's all sort of a joke, right? I mean, this entire Trump candidacy is a total bogus joke. But I read that Sarah Palin went on TV and tried to explain that change in position. And when I heard Sarah Palin tried to explain a change of opinion, I said, I absolutely have to see this. And she did not disappoint. She invoked none other than Justin Bieber. And she generally just baffled Jake Tapper. I mean, look, if you're watching along with me, take a look at the expression on Jake Tapper's face, visibly confused by this explanation from Sarah Palin.
You talked about inconsistencies among the votes and the positions of Senator Cruz. Donald Trump is somebody who has clearly had different positions on issues that he has today, including an issue very near and dear to your heart, the issue of abortion and life. Have you talked to him about that? He called himself very pro-choice. Now he says he's very pro-life. Have you talked to him about it?
I am so glad that Mr. Trump has seen the light and understands the sanctity of innocent life and how a baby in the womb should be most protected. What has been kind of sad about the situation, though, politically speaking, are groups that are pro-life and they say they want to bring more people into the fold. They given Trump a hard time for his past views on abortion, where they're celebrating others, like I was going through a list, like Justin Bieber and
Justin Bieber.
Who has made statements understanding the sanctity of life, but in the past said he was no big deal to him. You know, he's just one example. But I've heard that these same groups celebrate people who have. I've been to their fundraisers. I've spoken at their events, and there's usually someone in the crowd, every single one of these crowds, who will testify to having seen the light, you know, to understand, oh, I get it, that God has created life with purpose. And
so you believe Mr. Trump when he says he's...
And then to see that they're celebrated, but for political reason, Mr. Trump is condemned for
changing his views to the right side. Yeah, that's politics.
Yeah, Justin Bieber was also pro-choice, Lewis, but is now pro-life. So, hey, I support Trump. I mean, the logic of that is not really striking me as good. I guess the logic is she knows other abortion flip-floppers also. One was a 16-year-old kid at the time, but still, Trump's great.
It doesn't really make sense that people who are very, very adamantly pro-life would condemn Donald Trump.
Right.
And at the same time praise someone like Justin Bieber. They would be praising Donald Trump if he changed his mind on this issue because they're pro-life and they want everyone to be pro-life.
Right.
So I don't understand her argument. I don't think that makes sense. But to me, it's clear that it is a flip-flop. I mean, Donald Trump is pandering to his base.
I would bet money that Donald Trump is pro-choice still. I don't think there's any
I agree.
question about it. Now, just as a point of interest, Sarah Palin is referring to when Rolling Stone asked a then 16-year-old Justin Bieber about abortion in cases of rape. I mean, why are you even asking a 16-year-old kid about abortion in cases of rape? And Justin Bieber said, well, I think that's really sad, but everything happens for a reason. And then he went on to say, I don't know how that would be a reason. I guess I haven't been in that position, so I wouldn't be able to judge that. So Justin Bieber basically answered, listen, I'm 16 years old. I don't have a clue what the hell is going on here. And Sarah Palin is saying, hey, this 69-year-old politician and lifelong businessman, his change of position on something as important as abortion is sort of the same as when a 16-year-old kid was sandbagged by Rolling Stone into commenting on abortion. It's equivalent in some way. I mean, this woman is living on another planet.
Well, we knew that.
Yeah.
How many years ago?
8, I guess, at this point. Yeah, no, it's been a while. Bizarre. And Jake Tapper, he just looks confused. Like he doesn't know what she's talking about and absolutely dumbfounded by her mention of Justin Bieber. But now this is what we call politics in America, at least on the Republican side. The David Pakman Show is on Facebook at facebook.com/David Pakman Show. And we are also on Reddit at davidpakman.com/REDDIT. Let's talk about Jeb Bush. Our old buddy Jeb Bush didn't do so well in the Republican caucus in Iowa. He got just 2.8% of the vote. It's really going pretty poorly for Jeb Bush. He's polling about 9% in New Hampshire, where primary voters will vote on Tuesday. So he's been doing speeches in New Hampshire. He was in Manchester yesterday, and he went on this rant about his ability to lead the country, and the reaction from the crowd was total and utter silence. I mean, you could hear a pin drop. Jeb Bush inspiring absolutely nothing in anyone in the room, which is sort of his trademark, that he can speak and speak and speak, and people just feel no emotion whatsoever. And then he asked people to clap for him in what may be the most sadly and pitifully pathetic moment of the 2016 campaign so far. This is my top choice. Let's take a look at the video.
So here's my pledge to you.
Yeah.
I will be a commander-in-chief that will have the back of the military. I won't trash talk. I won't be a divider-in-chief or an agitator-in-chief. I won't be out there blowharding, talking a big game without backing it up. I think the next president needs to be a lot quieter, but send a signal that we're prepared to act in the national security interests of this country to get back in the business of creating a more peaceful world. Please clap.
Yeah. More like, please wake up and then clap. I think I counted 3 people sleeping in the background, and that's just who was on camera.
People do look a little bit bored. And I guess you don't always know when to applaud. He didn't end his sentence with the proper emphasis.
Right. The dynamics of calling for an applause, right, by the way in which you speak, through the way you speak. There's sort of an art to it, right?
Yeah.
And he may have he had the emphasis on the wrong syllable, we could say.
Yes, I think that's part of the problem. That, and he is rather dull. and
Are you feeling bad for him, though?
Do I feel bad for him?
It's really pathetic.
No, I don't feel bad for him. He got himself into this mess.
Yeah.
And He's achieved quite a bit in the political world
Yes,
already.
I guess that's true.
And maybe that's enough. He needs to just call it quits here. He doesn't have a chance, Dave. It's time to call it quits and not have to ask audiences to applaud for you anymore.
Well, tomorrow we'll go into more detail about whether Jeb has a shot in New Hampshire and sort of how that would change the picture, more broadly speaking, in the Republican primary. But it is really not looking good for Jeb Bush at all. Lewis is absolutely right on that. Gamefly is sort of like Netflix for video games. They have over 8,000 new and classic games for Xbox One, Xbox 360, PS4, PS3, Wii, and a bunch of other platforms. And you can play as many games as you want for one monthly fee. And if you find some games you want to keep, you can buy them for a low used price. There's never any due dates or late fees. And our audience can get a free 30-day trial at gameflyoffer.com/TDPS. The games are shipped directly to you with return envelopes included. There's no contracts, and you can rent games through the mobile app. Get the free 30-day trial for the David Pakman Show audience and support our show by going to gameflyoffer.com/TDPS.